Nick is now at the halfway point of this walk.
Dinosaur fossils from the Jurassic period have been discovered in southwest China's Yunnan province.
Today, we will take you on a journey through the canyons. Together, we will discover some of the most amazing, dramatic, and controversial finds that have baffled the public for a long time.
Over 800 days at the Wolf's Lair. It was by far the most used of all his headquarters.
Fair warning, you'll be leaving with more questions than answers. So let's dig in. Number 1. The Great Unconformity. The Grand Canyon isn't a strange name, but this bizarre fact about the canyon has kept everyone baffled for decades. In geology, rocks forming on top of one another tell scientists how much time has passed. But the Grand Canyon's Great Unconformity is where it gets puzzling. It claims that there is a massive chunk missing from the Earth's rock record. This gap is because younger rocks are sitting on top of older rocks. But the problem is that the gap is over 1 million years old. The rocks that are 550 million years old are sitting on top of rocks that are 3 billion years old.
A big gap. I mean, the Earth itself is only about 4.5 billion years old.
Nobody knows why there is a huge gap in the rocks. What dramatic event could have wiped off the Grand Canyon's history with such a huge margin? Sadly, we only have questions and no answers. Number 2. Grand Canyon's mysterious city. There is a secret about the Grand Canyon that has neither been solved nor ever shelved. It continues to mystify locals and experts alike. Back in 1909, there was an explorer called Kincaid who wanted to look for mineral deposits in the canyon. Instead, he stumbled upon a mysterious city tucked inside a cave. He claimed that around 50,000 people could have easily lived there. Inside the tunnels, he saw dozens of rows of mummies stacked on the walls, ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, and a giant Buddha that stood at the center of all the tunnels. Kincaid went to this cave twice. The first trip was solo, but his next trip had another scientist on board with him from the Smithsonian Institute. But after the 2 visits, there was no hint of the 2 explorers. Smithsonian denies ever starting such an expedition and has no clue leading to the secret cave or its hidden entrance. Number 3. The Tightrope Walk. This guy is Nick Wallenda, and he was the first person to walk the Grand Canyon area gorge using a tightrope. Back in 2013, he attempted to walk the 2-inch thick steel cable without any safety or harness. Above the Little Colorado River, the man took careful steps to cross the 1,500 feet path and got across within a record-breaking time. He managed to complete the walk in only 22 minutes and 54 seconds. That's nothing short of extraordinary. What's scary is that the weather wasn't his most loyal friend on the big day. The heavy wind gusts made it a big struggle to cross the massive gorge. Sources claim that the winds were blowing at 35 miles an hour, but the man of steel managed to push through and complete the record just in time. Number 4. The tallest tree in the deepest canyon, Yarlung Changpo. Grand Canyon is located in Tibet, China. It runs 314 feet in length and 3.7 miles deep. One part of the canyon breaks into 2 peaks, and both of them are treacherous. One stands tall at a terrifying height of 25,000 feet, while the other runs up to a height of 23,000 feet. Even at its lowest point, the canyon is 3 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. But deep inside the canyon, where even humans might have trouble going, the trees are thriving. There is one tree in the mix that is over 335 feet tall. That's more than the height of the Statue of Liberty. It is the largest tree recorded in Asia, and nobody knows what's going down there. If that's one of the trees hidden deep inside, scientists can only guess what other secrets lie the deeper you go into the canyon. Number 5. The Mysterious Portal.
800 miles southeast of Lima, Peru, near the shores of Lake Titicaca.
There is a strange door that has kept everyone on the edge of their seats and is called the Aramu Muru Portal. It is just as strange looking as it sounds. What you'll see is a doorway-like structure standing tall at a height of nearly 22 feet. It is T-shaped with a huge hole in its center and is carved into a weird pink stone that isn't found anywhere else around the region. The design is pretty intricate too, with carvings of serpents and lizards etched on the doorway. But that's not where the mystery ends. It is sealed from the other end, raising even more burning questions than ever. Nobody knows where the mysterious door leads and why it was built. However, many speculations and theories that revolve around the portal. People think it leads to an underground temple, while others think it is an entrance to a secret ground where the ancient civilizations carried out rituals. There are also claims of alien involvement, but that is just throwing it out of the box, no? Some experts believe that it could be a natural phenomenon too, but nothing is clear. Number 6. Hot springs at the Fish River Canyon. The hike to the Fish River Canyon will welcome you to a special place that is surrounded by myth and fantasy. The trail opens up to a green pocket of palm trees and a hot spring. Hot water flows down to a river from the inland at a temperature of 57 degrees. This hot stream is popular among the hikers as a resting spot after a long and tiring day. These hikers may have a lot of thoughts flowing in their minds when they come here, but one ought to unmistakably pop up. Where did the palm trees come from? Some seem to think it was the work of the German prisoners. They were in hiding during the year 1916 and must have dropped the date pits on their way in and out of the hidden caves. These pits may have liked the fertile ground they needed to grow and shot up straight into palm trees. The prisoners were recaptured, but their legacy remains strong even to this day. A lot of locals also believe that the hot springs are magical healers. The story goes that a cancer patient stayed here for 9 months and would take a bath occasionally in the sulfur springs. He went back home, all healed. Number 7. Exploring the Bremer Canyon. Australia is home to many underwater canyons, but Bremer Canyon was only recently explored. What the scientists found there was nothing short of fascinating. The 2-week expedition involved sending a rover down into the sea, and the mystical discoveries that the scientists made were exciting.
They're also taking samples of deep-sea corals to give them insight into climate history.
At 650 feet, the scientists found a wonderland tucked deep under the sea. Sponges of almost every color were dancing around, but the expedition didn't end there. The researchers dove further into the sea, nearly 10,000 feet deep, and found unusual creatures roaming around in the sea. There was one coral that casts its skeleton by adding layers just like the rings of a tree that tell you its age. So, its initial layers can tell the researchers about the coral's past. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. There were hundreds of deep-sea animals and corals that the scientists were busy exploring. It is like coming across a hidden treasure in the canyon. Number 8. The deepest gorge. Kali Gandaki. Gorge is in Nepal and is considered the deepest gorge in the world. Sources claim that the gorge is roughly 20,000 feet deep, but the exact depth remains unknown to this day. The Kali Gandaki Gorge is considered one of the largest canyons in the world, but it is not the longest or the widest. In reality, the end and beginning of the gorge remain a big question mark too. But scientists think the length does not exceed 30 miles. Others seem to stretch their length to the rivers and claim that the gorge is nearly 200 miles long. But the debate about its depth is not contradictory at all. The mountains surrounding the gorge reach a tremendous height of 18,000 feet. But at the deepest point of the gorge, the mystery remains as alive as ever. What possibly could be the height of the gorge? Nobody really knows. Number 9. Uranium mining in the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon hosts hundreds of uranium mines, but the dangers of destroying the canyon are dangerously high. For far too long, the mines have been shut. There were dangers of the uranium seeping into the drinking water and contaminating it. But recently, a uranium mine, about 7 miles from the Grand Canyon, began its operations. This was the first uranium mine that opened its doors in the United States in the past 8 years. The Havasupai tribe is the one that is most affected by this decision. They have been against mining for a long time now, but even they knew it was something inevitable. Despite the bad experiences of the past, the government reassures the public that they have taken the necessary measures. They believe that they need to mine uranium for the state's needs. The plan is to mine out 1.57 million pounds of uranium in the next 28 months. Number 10. The luxury suite in the canyon. If you are looking for a quiet place to stay in the Grand Canyon, try this luxury suite that's considered the quietest, darkest, deepest, but the largest room in the world. At about 200 feet below the canyon, the room awaits to greet you into a cozy and quiet night. Just so you know, you'll have to go 22 stories down the ground. The elevator opens up to a giant cave where there is a room tucked away in the corner, guarded by a wooden fence. The cavern isn't pretty shabby either. You'll find a kitchen, microwave, fridge, a couch that transforms into a king bed, and 2 queen beds. That's not all there is: a TV, lights, a running shower, and a restroom. But there is a catch. The restroom is only good for 7 to 8 flushes, and you can only watch 2 movies. Plus, you can always find a mummy lying around in the cave somewhere. All you'll have to do is pay $800 for 2 guests and the room is yours for the night. Number 11. Dinosaurs in Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon looks like a place where dinosaurs could have waged war on Earth. But the reality is far from the opposite. There has been no proof that dinosaurs roamed the canyon. The dinosaurs were around nearly 65 million years ago. But the problem is the Grand Canyon's age. Since that is a whole other debate, it makes it harder to see whether the Grand Canyon even existed around the time of the dinosaurs. There is a lot of speculation on that matter, but a few rock formations date back to 70 million years old. That puts the canyon right in the middle of the age of the dinosaurs. Then where are the fossils? Some think that the western part of the Grand Canyon eroded at a higher speed than the other regions. This makes it significantly younger than the dinosaurs, around 6 to 18 million years. But then again, it is just a theory. Number 12. The fairy circles. Far away into the desert, there are weird soil stamps that have fascinated the experts for decades. These stamp spots are bare patches on the arid land and are thousands in number stretched for miles on the land. They look like polka dots, but their exact origin remains unknown to this day. Experts thought that termites were eating the grass away, or maybe the plants were arranging themselves in a specific way. But things became stranger in the year 2020, when excessive rain hit the region. The desert started turning green, but the fairy circles remained dry as ever. The grass inside the circles dried within 10 days, and another 10 days completely killed the grass inside. But the vegetation outside the circles was still blooming. Recently, hundreds more regions around the world were discovered where fairy circles were found, but the question remains clear as day. What are they, and how are they formed? Number 13. Sloth dung in the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon has many caves. For hundreds of years, they were the perfect hideouts for animals like bats, birds, and many other ancient animals. But the secret hideout turned out to be the ideal spot for the preservation of fossils, too. Years later, scientists found many fossils tucked away in these hard-to-travel nooks and crannies. But one thing stood out during the exploration trips: sloth dung. In the cave, there were hundreds of dung balls scattered on the cave floor. They looked as if they were excreted recently, but the analysis found out that they were from the 1930s. That's not even the strangest part. The dung balls were of an animal that has been extinct for nearly 10,000 years. It belonged to a ground sloth named Shasta that must have been easily over 500 pounds. Number 14. The blue eye of the Sahara. There is a crater in South Africa that looks like an eye and is so massive that it can be seen from space. What's weird is that you can probably not make out the eye from a short distance, not even from a drone. You'll have to rely on satellite images for the best view, but that is not the strangest thing about the eye. The crater has multiple eccentric circles and stretches nearly 30 miles in diameter. It dates back to 1,542,000,000 years ago. People have a lot of theories about the eye. A lot of them think that it is the remains of the lost city of Atlantis, while others think that it is an abandoned city of the aliens. But experts have different theories. They seem to think that the eye was a result of tectonic shifts, but they are all speculations. Nobody has been able to answer the secret behind this marvel. Experts believe that the different rocks in the rings must have eroded at different speeds, creating different colors and patterns on the surface. This is why the eye sometimes appears to have a bluish hue, giving it an even more eerie look. Number 15. The Gates of Hell. What the locals call the Gates of Hell is actually a crater in Turkmenistan. It is a 100 feet deep pit in a large natural gas reserve that has been burning for decades. Back in 1971, it is believed that a large oil rig fell into the pit. So, a geologist tried to get rid of the rig by setting the crater on fire. The rest is history, and the fire is burning, even today.
Now, it looks a lot like a volcano. It's not. Kourounis describes it as part natural phenomenon and part industrial accident.
Whether it is day or night, you'll find the fire burning. There are two big flames in the middle of the crater, but the edges aren't safe either. There are small flames that are thousands in number, and standing too close to the crater can expose you to terrible heat, especially if you are standing downwind of the crater. The crater is about 250 feet in the middle of the desert. An explorer had the guts to go down into the crater for soil samples. He claims he felt like a baked potato digging holes in the crater. What's fascinating is that new flames erupted out of the holes he dug. The country has shut it down as a tourist spot. Number 16. Grand Canyon Skywalk. To get a grand view of the Grand Canyon, you need to get on the sidewalk. It is a horseshoe-shaped pathway made up of glass and steel that will make you feel like you're walking in the air. The whole structure stands 10 feet wide and extends nearly 70 feet over the Grand Canyon's rim. What's fascinating is that it puts you at a height of 4,000 feet into the air, giving you the most spectacular view of the canyon. The experience doesn't come cheap, but it is definitely on the bucket list of many. Number 17. The Vishnu Temple. Located at a staggering height of nearly 8,000 feet sits a temple at the Grand Canyon. This temple came to be known as the Vishnu Temple. Ironically, the name was given in the 1880s by Clarence Dutton, who believed that the mountain looked like an oriental pagoda. He was the one who started the tradition of going around places in the Grand Canyon and naming the regions after mythological deities. If you look closely, you can spot the intricate structure of the temple and the cream-colored cliff formation. Number 18. The Coconino Sandstone. Amidst the red of the Grand Canyon, there is a white cliff formation with small sand dunes like structures on its top. This formation is called the Coconino Sandstone and is present all throughout the province. But the only place where it is viable is at the Grand Canyon. The Coconino Sandstone is millions of years old, but the experts argue that its characteristics are nothing like that of the modern sand dunes. Plus, the formation is pretty uneven, narrow from the ends and wider from the middle. What's interesting is that the ripple marks, sand dune deposits, rain patches, slump marks, and fossil tracks are hidden in the formation and are well preserved. But that's not the strangest thing about it. The interesting thing is that the many fossils found around here aren't any bones. These fossils are tracks and footprints of invertebrates and reptiles, telling a whole story about their life in the desert. There is a track of a snake that came to be known as the Chalichnus. Nobody has ever seen what its bones look like, nor were they ever found. Number 19. The false scorpion. The pseudoscorpions look like scorpions, but do not have a lot in common. This is why the names false scorpions and book scorpions get thrown around for this animal. They are pretty tiny. You might not even notice one crawling around you because of their small size. Stretching nearly half an inch, they are 10 times smaller than the real scorpion. These animals do not have a stinger and can barely harm a human.
They have 8 legs compared to an insect's 6 legs, and their bodies are separated into 2 segments.
They can only use their pincers to bite a human, but that won't do much harm to you. Sadly, the same fate does not go down on its prey, which includes a bunch of different insects. These animals have a short life, spending around 4 to 5 years in the wild if they can avoid threats. Number 20. The Sudwala Caves. These caves are one of the most amazing marvels of the world. They are considered the oldest caves in the world, about 3,000 million years old. At the entrance, you can spot the display of a few cavern tools that the early civilizations used back in the day. But it gets fascinating the more you go inside. The caves have an interesting architecture. They are spread out at a length of 1,960 feet, with 490 feet running underground. But people come out here to see the central chamber that has its own secrets that nobody can answer. The central chamber of the cave is 120 feet high and 229 feet in diameter. But its temperature does not go beyond 17 degrees Celsius, keeping the chamber cool all day long. What's interesting is that nobody knows why this central chamber stays airy and how the air travels inside the cave. But it keeps it chilled and makes people forget that they are claustrophobic. Number 21. Paragan Falcons. The fastest bird in the world, the Paragan Falcons, flies at a blazing speed of 240 miles per hour. But that's not the only thing that's fascinating about this animal. Humans have quite a sharp vision. We have a black spot in the back of our eye known as fovea, where vision is the sharpest. These birds have 2 of those, making their eyesight impeccable. Combined, it is like a jet that can take down its prey within seconds.
It scans for prey with its phenomenal vision.
The bird does a crazy stoop dive to aim for its prey and grabs it in one power move. Number 22. The Chiricahua leopard frog. This frog is known as the leopard frog because of the many spots on its body. These frogs are pretty tiny and can only grow up to 4.3 inches in length. The animal is mostly active at night and can be found at towering elevations, nearly 3,000 to 8,000 feet. But what's scary is that the frogs are now threatened. Shocking reports show that about 80% of the population has been wiped out from many of its habitats.
Drought has made conserving Chiricahua leopard frogs a bit more complicated.
scientists are working on preserving the population of the species. Number 23. Split twig figurines. An interesting find in the Grand Canyon relates to the ancient civilizations and how they lived in the region back in the day. These are the split twig figurines that are over 4,000 years old. These are man-made structures that were designed by the people who inhabited the Grand Canyon in the early days. It is unclear why these structures were made. Scientists think that they must have been created as a ritual before hunting down the animals. This is because some of the figurines found had a spear-like structure pierced through the design, showing that the animal had been killed. Number 24. Bigfoot of the Grand Canyon. Did you know that Bigfoot was spotted in the Grand Canyon too? Back in the early 1900s, there were multiple sightings of a Sasquatch-like creature. Many people who visited the Grand Canyon reported that they saw a monster roaming at night. It had a giant body covered in gray hair, claws on its fingers, and green eyes. The monster started becoming popular as the Mogollon Monster, after the Mogollon Rim where the monster was sighted. But people could not ignore but make the connection of this creature with Bigfoot. It may just be a myth, but the hundreds of sightings of the monster make you wonder if it is actually true. Number 25. World War II. Nazi bunkers. Recently, drones discovered Nazi bunkers that were hidden under an abundance of vegetation, hiding them from public view. The secret bunkers may have caught rust over the years, but they were once the most sought-after places during the World War. Inside the bunkers, there were many interesting finds. From detailed maps, secret codes, and propaganda posters to weaponry and private documents, there was a lot to look into the minds of the Nazis. Historians and experts have had a fun time exploring these bunkers to get a peek at how strategic the plans were during the Second World War. That's all, folks. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe to our channel. And be sure to let us know which one of these finds you found the most fascinating. Thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.